You're tuned into Sports Unlimited on Speak Radio.
Young Shad, you killed this track.
Welcome back to Sports Unlimited. I am Coach Z.
I am Jabari.
And what's good, my people? This is your boy FJ.
All right. So today we're going to talk about something every parent and young athlete needs to hear. We're going to focus on youth athlete development. Really speaking about when should your young athletes start strength training. So, and I don't know, like, what do y'all think? I know it's something as a coach that I know that a lot of athletes they're eager to do the strength training, some lifting and stuff like that. But I know a lot of parents is like, should my son or should my daughter be lifting, or they're more focused on the safety, which they should be on the lifting and stuff like that. But what's your take?
I'll let you go ahead, Jabbar.
Yeah, as someone who was an athlete growing up, that's a very important question, right? When should you start strength training? For me, it was around the age of 14, 15, right when I was really getting into sports. And I feel like as kids develop and grow, right, so should their training regimens as well.
Absolutely. What you got, Fred?
I like that. I'm listening to Jabari talk about what you say around 14, 15. Um, and even going back to the weightlifting portion of it, when it pertains to weightlifting, I would say be patient when it comes to weightlifting. And that's at all ages. It don't matter if you're 10, 12 years old, 20 years old, all the way up into adult. When you get to talking about lifting weights and pushing weights, be mindful and be careful. And then the next thing I would say to when a kid should possibly start getting into strength training and all of that weightlifting, I would say pay attention to the kid's body, his maturity level, her maturity level, see how they respond to certain things and kind of go off of that. Because some kids are ready for training at 7. Some kids, it may take a little bit longer, 10 to 12 years old. So just kind of look at the kid's body, look at the genetics, look at the parents, like look at all of that stuff because that stuff plays a role. That's how I feel about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so many different things or different ways to invest in your kids' sports. Like we've already talked about the investment in AAU. We talked about um, you know, clubs, and different trainings. But I noticed that strength training is not something that parents are investing in with their kids. And that's the most important part, because not only like strength training, we're focusing on obviously strengthening your muscles. We're focusing
Right.
on injury prevention, which is a huge component that I don't think a lot of parents may actually, think about. And then now the kids are getting hurt. Now we're going to physical therapy. They're out
Yeah. Yeah.
for a long duration of time.
Mhm.
We also spoke about like the whole multiple sports aspects of it. You're playing baseball,
Yeah.
soccer, basketball, football. It's like you're putting your kids in all these different sports, and you're wondering why they're not performing the way they need to, or they're getting
Yes.
injured. It's because you're not investing in the strength part. You're not investing in correcting the kids' forms, or the kids are doing these exercises wrong. So I think that's a big component. It's just like what are you investing in, what's important to invest in with your kids when it comes
You know
to
what?
sport.
You know
Yeah.
what, Z, I'll say this too, and I'll let Jabari go after me. Um, I'll say this too. Thinking about, since we're on strength training and all of that stuff, I think what's most important, what should be at the forefront, is knowing how to stretch. Like,
Yeah.
I'm 42 years old, and I can honestly say, and this is with me playing sports my whole life, I'm just now learning the importance of stretching.
Or
Like, it's so important that because if you don't get stretching down, if you don't get that mobility down, you're welcoming injuries in. So I just want to throw that out there for the people. Be mindful and always keep stretching at the forefront.
100%.
uh, absolutely. As a kid athlete myself, right? You learn the basics, just the basic stretches and just like the basic conditioning, right? But uh, it's a whole lot. There's a whole lot more to that to make sure that you are actually doing it correctly, right? Because
Yeah,
it's not always just the basics that prevent, injury. You need to do a lot of rest and recovery, and
talk
a lot
about
of
it.
pre-game, post-game things, even during the games, right? Um, he's keeping your body as active as possible, making sure those muscles don't tense up, right? And stuff like that. So I can attest to that as well. Over the years, right, you learn more and more about how important stretching and resting and recovery is, rather than just, what they tell you the basics are.
Right. Definitely. I want to talk about like just the myth of what parents think about when they think about strength training for their kids. They think that, okay, this is going to be dangerous for my kids, or my kid might get injured. It's like the kid gonna get injured if you're not um you know one, like FJ said, stretching, developing those muscles, because you're jumping, you're pushing off this foot. You need that ankle mobility. There's so many different aspects of working out um the muscles that you're going to be using in your specific sports. Like that's why even sports specific training is good. Sports performance training is good. Um, and I mean, I truly believe that kids should start strength training as early as about maybe even 7 to 8, or
Yeah,
between 7 to 10, because that's that's the age that a lot of these kids are even participating in sports,
yeah, yeah,
and it doesn't make you don't have to be like no one's trying to have anyone's kid being a bodybuilder or anything
Right.
crazy like that, but it's just
yeah.
like really basic mobility, really basic strength training, So I don't know what you guys think about that.
Um, I agree. I Going back to parents thinking that their kids are going to get injured if they start doing something at an earlier age. I mean, just look at the top athletes now. Look at the athletes
Mhm.
in the NBA and that's playing in NFL or even baseball. Like the injuries are gonna come. So it don't matter how much training you do. Of course, you do need stretches is very important, but all I'm trying to say is you're gonna get injured. But if you
Yeah.
work on these things earlier in life, it helps with longevity as well. So that's why I feel like you said, Z, starting at 7 years old. Start training. It don't have to be nothing too physical, but start somewhere. Don't wait until your kid is playing basketball, baseball, football, soccer, and then now you want to get into to training. Well, it's almost too late because that body is growing rapidly. And
Right.
what you're going to start doing at 13, 14, and 15, you probably should have been doing a lot earlier. And that body, that 15-year-old body needs a different type of training versus at 7.
Right. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because you gotta start somewhere. You know what I mean? If
Yeah.
you can't just start when you get to high school, and
Right.
which sometimes that's when most kids think they should start. But yeah. So I want to talk about just like what I mean to the parents who are listening. It's like, okay, so what are you supposed to do with your kid? Or like what exercises and what she'd be focusing on, and like me being a strength conditioning coach and sports performance coach, like I really like to focus on like um plyometrics, which is jumping exercises, and this helps with focusing on landing properly and getting that explosive power
Hmm.
and your jumping and your movement. Of course, balance. You gotta have control because jump. You jump in and then now you coming down off balance, and that's pretty much how the injuries happen.
Yeah.
Um, movement patterns is definitely good, especially for like football players. Um, but like doing this small stuff like push-ups, squats, of course, jumping,
Uh-huh.
focus on like landing mechanics and stuff like that. I don't know. That's just something that I would do, or that I do with my young athletes, my middle schoolers. Do you guys have any tips or anything that you
Well,
think?
let me ask this question to Jabari and
Okay.
you as well, Z. How often should these kids be training a week?
I personally feel like at least a good 2 to 3 um days a week would be sufficient, especially
Okay.
depending on their schedule. Like I mean, again, some of these kids are you know doing 2 or 3 sports, but I think a rest, definitely have a rest day, in between. But 2 or 3 days out of the week is good enough. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I was going to say the same, 2 to 3 days out of the week. And they don't have to be intensive training, right? It could be, like we said, stretching. It could be a little bit of weight training here, for short periods of time, but definitely making sure that you're getting that work in before obviously being on the field, on the court, whatever sport you play on the pitch, right? Making sure that yeah, of course, having that rest day is very, very important. But 2 to 3 times per week is a good range for training.
Yeah,
Okay.
I definitely would agree with that.
And I think that about sums it up, man. So what I would leave for the parents, if you take anything from this episode, I would say build the foundation early. That's my take on it. Build it early so that you can prevent issues down the road.
Yeah, I agree. What do you have to say, Jabari?
No, I totally agree with everything that was said. Taking those preventative measures early, right, is definitely important for longevity in whatever sports that these kids decide to play.
Absolutely. And I mean, this training smart, getting that good recovery, um, and focusing on development, um, you know, trust the process, and now don't focus on like, what like a high school person is doing, or someone that's a little bit more advanced than you. Like
Yeah.
everyone has to
Mhm.
you gotta master the level that you're at, and then
Mhm.
then you'll increase to a higher level. So just take your time and always enjoy what you're doing, have fun, and you'll get to the level that you need to get to. But train smart. That's what I'm going to lead with.
Absolutely.
I well, I appreciate you guys chiming in with us. Until our next episode, we will catch you at the next one.
Peace.
All right, later.